Hey, Merry Christmas, all. I am Chanel. Welcome to Chanel's Reality. I'm Chanel, and this is my reality. Listen, I wanted to come on here and talk a little bit about Jay-Z. I was supposed to do this a while back, I think like in November, but I didn't. So I'm up, and we're just gonna get into allegedly how Jay-Z, finessed people out of their money and or had his rise to fame. A lot of people think the road to the top is easy. If it was easy, everybody would get there and everybody would be there. It's hard for a reason. But in this case, I don't necessarily think he took the hard way to get there. I think he took the easy way. So let's just get into it.
The brand was popularized and created by Grammy-winning artist and businessman Jay-Z, who owns it and will retain a 50% ownership stake alongside Moet.
And how money can come between friends. We haven't had money for a long time, so we don't know we're not professionals at navigating how to communicate.
What if I told you that hip-hop's first billionaire built his empire by systematically betraying every person who helped him get there? That behind the Armani suits and champagne toasts lies one of the most calculated schemes in entertainment history?
Volume 2, Hard Knock Life. Please welcome, making his network television debut, Jay-Z.
Right now, Jay-Z sits on a $2.5 billion throne, celebrated as the ultimate success story.
It is my honor to welcome to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Jay-Z.
The crack dealer who became a mogul, the street hustler who conquered corporate America. But here's what they don't want you to know. Every dollar in that empire was financed by finessing young artists, backstabbing loyal partners, and weaponizing trust like a business strategy. We're talking about a man who convinced his childhood friend to sign away his masters for pennies, who secretly negotiated behind his business partner's back for months before stealing a $50 million company, who built a system so sophisticated that artists still don't realize they're being robbed until it's too late. This isn't just another rags to riches story. This is the blueprint for how one man turned exploitation into an art form, betrayal into billions, and the dreams of an entire generation into his personal ATM machine. And I'm about to expose the real story behind Jay-Z's empire, how he went from slinging rocks in Brooklyn to finessing the entire music industry, one contract at a time. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some people call him the greatest businessman of our time, while others call him the most dangerous predator hip-hop has ever seen. And stick around, because what you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about success, loyalty, and the price of making it in America. Before we dive into the empire, we need to understand the man who built it. Sean Corey Carter wasn't born into wealth or privilege. He came up in the Marcy Projects in Brooklyn, 27 six-story buildings that housed some of New York's most forgotten families during the crack epidemic of the 1980s. But here's what makes Jay-Z different from every other rags to riches story in hip-hop. From day one, he understood that survival wasn't just about being the best, it was about being the smartest. While other kids were focused on the streets, Jay was already studying the game within the game. To understand how Jay-Z would later finesse an entire industry, you have to understand the environment that created him. The Marcy Projects weren't just housing, they were a masterclass in hustle economics. Every transaction had an angle.
It's so easy to become a podcaster with Riverside. First, go to Riverside and open an account. When you're ready to record, just hit rec to capture high-quality audio and video.
Every relationship had leverage, and every opportunity came with a price. This is the story of how those lessons would eventually cost his friends, his partners, and countless young artists millions of dollars. Because when you're dealing with someone who learned business on the streets of Brooklyn during the crack era, you're not just dealing with a rapper or a CEO, you're dealing with someone who sees every handshake as a potential setup. At 12 years old, Sean Carter shot his own brother in the shoulder over a stolen ring. That wasn't just family drama. That was his first lesson in protecting assets and establishing consequences. In the Marcy Projects, that kind of decision-making would become second nature. By 13, Carter was deep in the crack game. But here's what separates his story from every other dealer-turned-rapper narrative. Jay wasn't just slinging rocks to survive. He was studying the entire supply chain, learning how money moved, how territories worked, and most importantly, how trust could be weaponized. According to his own accounts, Jay was moving product from New York to Virginia, Maryland, and beyond. We're talking about a teenager running multi-state operations while most kids his age were worried about homework. But the real education wasn't in the drugs, it was in the relationships. Dame Dash, who would later become his business partner and eventual victim, has spoken about how Jay operated even back then. He wasn't the loudest guy in the room or the most flashy. He was the one watching, calculating, figuring out who had what and how to get it. Memphis Bleak, one of Jay's oldest friends, tells a story about visiting Jay's apartment in the mid-90s. He asked to borrow $100 and Jay told him to go to his nightstand drawer. When Bleak opened it, he found stacks of hundreds filling every drawer in the room. The message was clear. Jay always had more than he showed, and he always knew exactly what everyone around him needed. This wasn't just about drug money. This was about understanding leverage. Jay learned early that information was power, that appearing smaller than you are gives you an advantage, and that the best move is often the one nobody sees coming. And these lessons would become the foundation of every business deal he'd make for the next 30 years. The transition from drug dealer to rapper wasn't just a career change for Jay-Z, it was the first major finesse of his life. While most dealers either got locked up or stayed in the game until it killed them, Jay saw something nobody else did. Hip-hop was about to become the new crack game, but legal. Here's where the story gets interesting. Jay didn't just decide to rap one day. He'd been writing rhymes since he was a kid, practicing flows on the subway rides between drug runs. But he kept that passion hidden from his street associates because showing artistic ambition could be seen as weakness in that world. JAYZ'S, an older rapper from the projects, became Jay's first mentor in the music game, but even this relationship shows Jay's calculating nature. While JAYZ'S thought he was helping a young kid learn the ropes, Jay was actually studying how the music industry worked, and more importantly, how artists got exploited. When JAYZ'S got a record deal with EMI, he brought Jay along to London for recording sessions. The album flopped, and EMI dropped JAYZ'S without warning. But Jay wasn't discouraged. He was taking notes. He watched how the label executives treated JAYZ'S like a disposable commodity, and he made a mental note: never be in a position where someone else controls your destiny. By the mid-90s, Jay was still moving weight, but he was also shopping demo tapes around New York. Every major label passed on him. They said he was too old, his flow was too complex, his subject matter was too street. But what they didn't realize was that every rejection was just more data for Jay to process. He wasn't just trying to get signed, he was learning how the industry worked so he could eventually control it. The turning point came when he met Dame Dash through DJ Clark Kent. Dame was managing a group called Original Flavor, and he had the kind of aggressive, in-your-face energy that complemented Jay's more calculated approach. But even from the beginning, their partnership was built on a fundamental misunderstanding. Dame thought they were building something together as equals. Jay was already planning his exit strategy. In 1995, Jay-Z, Dame Dash, and Kareem Biggs Burke founded Rockefeller Records with one goal: to release Jay's debut album, Reasonable Doubt. But what looked like three friends starting a label was actually the beginning of Jay's most elaborate long-term finesse. Here's how the setup worked. Dame brought the hustle and the connections. Biggs brought the business sense and the calm demeanor.
If you often go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I suggest you eat 2 pieces a day. If you go to the bathroom several times.
And Jay brought the talent. On paper, it was an equal three-way split. In reality, Jay was positioning himself as the indispensable asset while his partners did the heavy lifting. The genius of the Rockefeller structure was that it gave Jay all the benefits of independence while his partners took all the risks. Dame was the one arguing with radio programmers, fighting with distributors, and making enemies in boardrooms. Biggs was handling the paperwork, managing the money, and dealing with the day-to-day operations. Meanwhile, Jay was in the studio, building his brand and quietly studying how his partners operated so he could eventually operate without them. Reasonable Doubt was released independently in 1996, and while it didn't immediately blow up commercially, it established Jay as a serious lyricist. But more importantly, it proved that the Rockefeller model could work. They had created a successful independent label that could compete with major labels. That success attracted the attention of Def Jam, and this is where Jay's long-term thinking started to pay off. Instead of signing a traditional artist deal, Jay negotiated something unprecedented: a 50-50 partnership between Rockefeller and Def Jam. On the surface, this looked like a win for everyone. Rockefeller got major label distribution and marketing muscle, while Def Jam got access to one of hip-hop's rising stars. But Jay had structured the deal in a way that gave him maximum flexibility for future moves. Dame Dash has said in interviews that he thought they were building a dynasty that would last forever. He envisioned Rockefeller as hip-hop's version of Motown, with multiple generations of artists building wealth together. Jay was already planning how to take it all for himself. The first sign of trouble came during the Hard Knock Life era in 1998. The album was a massive success, going multi-platinum and establishing Jay as a mainstream star. But instead of celebrating with his partners, Jay started making moves that would benefit him individually. He began building relationships with Def Jam executives behind Dame's back. He started positioning himself as the reasonable partner who could work within the corporate structure, while Dame was painted as the difficult one who caused problems. This wasn't accidental. Jay understood that in any partnership, the person who controls the relationships with outside power brokers eventually controls the partnership itself. While Jay was positioning himself for his eventual takeover, he was simultaneously building a system that would exploit young artists for decades. The Rockefeller roster became a case study in how to extract maximum value from talent while giving minimal returns. Let's start with Beanie Sigel, one of the most talented rappers ever signed to the label. Beans was discovered by Jay in Philadelphia, and his raw talent was undeniable. But the contract he signed was structured to benefit Rockefeller far more than it benefited him. According to industry insiders, Beanie's deal was a standard 360 contract, meaning Rockefeller took a percentage of everything: album sales, touring, merchandise, even appearance fees. But here's the kicker: the percentages were heavily weighted toward the label, and the recoupment terms were designed to keep artists in debt. Beanie Sigel has spoken publicly about how his album, The Truth, should have made him wealthy, but instead he barely saw any money from it. The album was critically acclaimed and commercially successful, but after recoupment, marketing costs, and label fees, Beanie's share was minimal. This wasn't an accident or poor management. It was the system working exactly as designed. Memphis Bleek, despite being Jay's childhood friend, got an even worse deal. Bleek was essentially used as a hype man and opening act for Jay's tours, but his solo career was never given the marketing support it needed to succeed. When Bleek's albums underperformed, it was blamed on his lack of talent rather than the label's lack of investment. But the most telling example is Kanye West. Kanye was producing hits for Jay and other Rockefeller artists, but when he wanted to rap, he was repeatedly told no. Jay and Dame didn't see Kanye as rapper material. They wanted to keep him behind the boards making beats. Kanye has talked about how he had to essentially force his way into a rap career by creating Through the Wire and building buzz independently. Even then, his deal with Rockefeller was structured as a producer-first contract, meaning his rap career was treated as a side project. The pattern was clear. Rockefeller would sign talented artists, extract their best work, and then limit their ability to build independent wealth or leverage. Artists were kept dependent on the label for everything from studio time to promotional support. Meanwhile, Jay was building his own independent revenue streams through endorsement deals, business ventures, and strategic partnerships that his label mates weren't privy to. Cameron and the Diplomats represent another level of the exploitation. Cam was brought in as the established...
Why are you not investing in tax liens? No, seriously. Why are you not investing?
Artist with his own following, but his Rockefeller deal was structured to give the label ownership of his masters while limiting his creative control. When Cam tried to assert more independence, he was marginalized within the label structure. His albums received less promotion, his tour support was reduced, and eventually he was pushed out entirely. The genius of Jay's system was that it appeared to be standard industry practice. Every label had similar contracts, every artist complained about similar issues. But Jay was using his position as both artist and executive to ensure that he got the best deals while his label mates got the industry standard. The destruction of Dame Dash represents the masterpiece of Jay-Z's finesse career. This wasn't just a business disagreement between partners. It was a calculated dismantling of the man who had helped build Jay's empire. And to understand how devastating this betrayal was, you have to understand what Dame Dash brought to Rockefeller. Dame wasn't just a co-founder. He was the engine that made everything work. While Jay was the talent and Biggs was the business mind, Dame was the one who fought for every deal, every opportunity, every dollar. Dame was the one who convinced radio stations to play Jay's music when nobody knew who he was. Dame was the one who negotiated with distributors, fought with record executives, and built the relationships that made Rockefeller successful. But Dame's aggressive style, which had been an asset in the early days, became a liability as Rockefeller grew. Corporate executives at Def Jam and Universal found Dame difficult to work with. His confrontational approach and refusal to compromise made him enemies in boardrooms across the industry. Jay saw this as an opportunity. Starting around 2002, Jay began having secret meetings with Def Jam executives. These weren't just casual conversations. They were strategic sessions designed to position Jay as the reasonable alternative to Dame's chaos. The meetings were kept secret from Dame and Biggs, which should have been a red flag. In any legitimate partnership, major strategic discussions would include all partners. But Jay was already operating as if he owned Rockefeller outright. The first public sign of trouble came during the filming of the Big Pimpin' video. Dame had arranged for the video to be shot on a yacht, but when they arrived, Jay announced that he had made other arrangements. Dame was publicly embarrassed in front of the crew, and the incident was captured on camera. This wasn't just a creative disagreement. It was Jay asserting dominance and showing Dame that his authority could be overruled at any time. The situation escalated during the recording of The Black Album in 2003. Jay announced that this would be his final album and that he was retiring from rap to focus on business. But instead of discussing this decision with his partners, Jay made the announcement unilaterally. Dame found out about Jay's retirement plans the same way everyone else did, through the media, but the retirement announcement was just the setup for the real finesse. While Dame thought Jay was stepping back from music to focus on Rockefeller, Jay was actually negotiating his own exit strategy. In 2004, the bomb dropped. Def Jam announced that they had purchased the remaining 50% of Rockefeller Records for $10 million, and that Jay-Z would be named president of Def Jam. Dame learned about the sale the same way he learned about the retirement, through the media. But here's where the finesse gets truly diabolical.
Hey, would you like your very own Shopify store? We're literally, and completely free, by the way. We are live streaming right now. If you click the link that you see below this,
Jay had structured the sale so that he would become Dame's boss. The man who had helped build Rockefeller from nothing would now have to report to his former partner. Dame's reaction was predictable. He refused to work under Jay and demanded to be bought out of his remaining stake in the company. Jay agreed, but the buyout terms were structured to minimize Dame's payout while maximizing Jay's control. Dame sold his stake in Rocawear for $22 million, thinking he was getting a fair deal. A year later, Jay sold the entire Rocawear brand for $204 million. If Dame had held on to his stake, he would have been worth at least $50 million more. But the most devastating part of the betrayal was personal. Dame and Jay had been friends for over a decade. They had built something together from nothing, survived industry politics, and created a cultural movement. Jay threw all of that away for corporate positioning and personal wealth. Dame Dash has never recovered from the betrayal, financially or emotionally. He spent the last 20 years fighting lawsuits, struggling with debt, and watching Jay build a billion-dollar empire with the foundation that Dame helped create. While the Dame Dash situation was playing out publicly, Jay-Z was executing an even more sophisticated scheme behind the scenes, the systematic acquisition of master recordings that would form the foundation of his billion-dollar empire. Understanding master ownership is crucial to understanding how Jay finessed the entire industry. When an artist records a song, there are two main revenue streams: the publishing, the songwriting, and the masters, the actual recording. Whoever owns the masters controls how the music is used, licensed, and monetized forever. In traditional record deals, artists sign away their masters in exchange for advances and promotional support. The label owns the recordings, and the artist gets a small percentage of the revenue. This system has kept artists poor while making label executives rich for decades. But Jay understood something that most artists didn't. The real money wasn't in being an artist, it was in owning the masters. His first move was securing ownership of his own masters through the Def Jam deal. When Jay became president of Def Jam, part of his compensation package included the rights to his future recordings. This meant that every album he released after 2004 would...
The person who invented this mobile phone holder is so smart. No matter what kind of mobile phone it is,
be owned by him, not the label. But that was just the beginning. Jay also negotiated to acquire the masters of other Rockefeller artists, often without their knowledge or consent. Beanie Siegel has spoken about discovering that Jay owned his masters years after signing his deal. Beans thought he was signing with Rockefeller Records, but the fine print revealed that his masters would be owned by a Jay-Z entity. This wasn't illegal, it was all in the contracts, but it was deceptive because young artists trusted Jay as a mentor and fellow artist, not realizing he was operating as a label executive who would profit from their work forever. The Memphis Bleek situation is even more egregious. As Jay's childhood friend, Bleek trusted him completely. His contract was structured so that Jay personally owned Bleek's masters, meaning that every time Bleek's music was played,
Sorry, I was muted. Let's be clear. Everything Jay-Z is doing is what all the record labels have been doing or was doing. I don't know if he's still doing it. But Jay-Z did the same exact thing when he started. What's the name of that damn? It was like Vivo for YouTube, but he called it something else. Excuse me, I forget. I have to think about the name of it. But you guys, you could put it in the chat what it is. But Title. So remember when he started Title and he had all of those big, huge stars come on stage, people like Nicki Minaj, and I can't think of the other ones, but major people. I think even Rihanna came on the stage, right? And was like, basically, this is for us by us, kind of like what Fubu did back in the 90s and early 2000s. This is for us by us, basically sounding like and portraying this idea that, hey, I was once one of you guys. I was an artist and I was out here struggling. I had to start my own record label to get recognized. And so I'm a person of the people. So you guys should trust me. What did he say? Follow my lead is the road to success, right? And so if you got all of these people looking up to you and you grinded it out and you got it out of the mud and you were, came from nothing. And then now it's not some white guy in a suit saying, hey, this is the way to riches. This is the way to fame. This is the way to all of your dreams coming true. Now it's a black guy in his 40s. I think he was in his 40s when he started Tidal, who's saying, I'm almost a billionaire already. All you have to do is sign on the dotted line. And we're going to give this money back to you. It's going to be a more fair situation in terms of you making money and, getting money on the front end, the back end, and endorsements and on and on and on. I'm going to make sure it's taken care of. Lies. My opinion. Again, I don't know none of these people. I wasn't there. But seems like lies to me. Y'all let me know, because the rundown that this man is about to give of, the people that Jay-Z has had either as a friend or on his label or brought him to the table and then seemingly was jealous of them or never let them, really come out, how he did Kanye. I remember that. And it was Dame Dash too. They didn't believe he was going to come out. Kanye said, fuck that. I'm about to have a album release party. You bitches can show up or not. And then the rest is history. Now, Kanye is a whole nother bag of worms, okay? I'm not supporting Kanye, none of that. But I'm saying that to say this is how Jay-Z operates. I believe, and I didn't believe this for the longest time, that whole him being with Beyonce was a business deal. At first, I'm like, no, these people love each other, blah, blah, blah. They bed and they Bonnie and Clyde. No. Because how does Beyonce have a super successful career prior to Jay-Z with Destiny's Child? They were successful, right? I think they had already won some Grammys, if I'm not mistaken. So the daddy already knew what the hell he was doing. How does Beyonce go from daddy being hands-on, kicking people off buses and, kicking them girls out of the group and all of that and being so hands-on to being completely seemed like he was vaporized? Meaning we ain't heard from him one time. He said stuff over the years and we get Beyonce's quote unquote private and all that. But for him to be completely 1,000% hands off of this mammoth of a daughter, one of the biggest superstars on the planet, you created her and now you don't have nothing to say? That shit to me is weird. It's bizarre. And so that's what kind of made me think maybe this is a business deal. Maybe he, married her so he could have the biggest, largest, most lucrative business deal on the planet. Just saying. Y'all let me know in the comments what y'all think. But that's what it feels like to me. It feels like, yeah, he could have married her and it could have just been for love and, all of the reasons, build a family, the reasons that people get married. Or it could have been just, I'll have the biggest chick in the game wearing my chain and I'm going to make a whole shit ton of money because she's attached to my name. That's what it seems like to me. I think he wanted to do that with Aaliyah. Aaliyah rejected his ass. And as a result, Aaliyah's not here. That's my opinion. I don't know these people. I wasn't there. Just my opinion. Just if you go down a little YouTube, wormhole for a second, you'll see all the bodies. That it's just like, whoa. It's very similar to Diddy, my opinion. Very similar to Diddy. Just not as grimy in terms of visually grimy, where it's not out there in your face. You know what I mean? And wait, did he? He got it on camera. You beating the brakes off Cassie in the hallway. That's what I mean by grimy in your face. Now, we didn't know until we know. We didn't know until we knew. But I have a feeling it's the same thing with Jay. It's just covered up better. Because I think he also allegedly stabbed or had someone stabbed or something because he released a CD or something. I believe that happened. And then that guy suddenly was like, no, it wasn't Jay-Z that did it. It's like, boy, fuck out of here. Really? If you say so. I don't believe none of that. I believe things happen and people cover it up, just like they covered up all that shit with Diddy for all those years. And Jay-Z's time is coming. I'm not sure exactly when, but it is coming in my opinion. But I do think he's shady and shiesty, just like the people in the business. I don't think he's no different.
Licensed or sold, Jay got paid. Bleek has never spoken publicly about the financial details of his deal, but industry insiders estimate that Jay has made millions from Bleek's catalog, while Bleek himself has struggled financially. But the most sophisticated master acquisition came through Jay's position at Def Jam. As president, Jay had access to the label's entire catalog and the ability to structure deals that would benefit him personally. When young artists like Rihanna were signed to Def Jam during Jay's tenure, their master ownership was structured through complex corporate entities that Jay had influence over. While these artists became global superstars, the long-term ownership of their early work was controlled by systems that Jay had helped design. The genius of this approach was that it appeared to be standard industry practice. Every label structure deals this way. Every executive had similar arrangements. But Jay was using his unique position as both artist and executive to ensure that he accumulated master ownership at an unprecedented scale. By 2008, when Jay left Def Jam to start Roc Nation, he had assembled a master catalog worth hundreds of millions of dollars. This wasn't just his own music, it was the work of dozens of artists who had trusted him as a mentor, partner, or friend. The catalog became the foundation of his billion-dollar empire, generating passive income that allowed him to make increasingly aggressive business moves without financial risk. The most insidious aspect of Jay-Z's rise to billionaire status wasn't what he did illegally. It was how he used legal contracts to systematically disadvantage everyone who worked with him. This represents perhaps the most sophisticated form of industry manipulation ever executed by a single individual. The foundation of Jay's contractual deception was his understanding that most artists, especially young ones, don't read or understand the legal documents they sign. They trust their lawyers, their managers, and most importantly, they trust the person offering them the deal. Jay exploited that trust ruthlessly. Let's examine the standard Rockefeller artist contract, which became the template for how Jay would structure deals throughout his career. On the surface, these contracts look similar to other label deals: advance payments, royalty percentages, promotional commitment.
Yes, this is why I switched to injection-free weight loss.
I was eating healthy, working out every day, and nothing would budge. I've lost, I think, 22 or 23 pounds at this point.
I noticed that my weight was really starting to creep up, and I just wasn't happy with the way that I looked. I have lost around 20 pounds.
Diet, exercise, I felt like I had tried everything. Finally, I stumbled across hers and thought, what do I have to lose? I have lost so far just over 35 pounds.
Weight Loss by Hers offers access to oral medication kits. Simple, all-in pricing. Ongoing care included at no extra cost. Free shipping right to your door if prescribed. Through Hers, your weight loss plan is personalized to your goals. Plus, you get access to unlimited messaging with a licensed medical provider. No insurance required, no in-person visits, 100% online. Take the free assessment to get started today.
It's Christmas and I'm still doing shit. So sorry.
But the devil was in the details. First, the recoupment terms were structured to keep artists in debt indefinitely. While most labels recoup advances from artist royalties, Rockefeller contracts included additional costs that artists weren't aware of. Studio time, promotional expenses, even the cost of Jay's own appearances on their tracks. Freeway, one of the most talented rappers on the Rockefeller roster, has spoken about how his album, Philadelphia Freeway, was profitable for the label, but left him with virtually no money. The recoupment terms were so complex that even successful albums didn't generate artist payouts. But the real deception was in the ownership structures. Many Rockefeller artists thought they were signing with an independent label that would give them more control and better terms than major labels. They didn't realize that their contracts were actually with subsidiary companies that Jay controlled personally. This meant that Jay wasn't just taking a label executive's percentage, he was taking an owner's percentage of.
Wait, so Miss Chakra, you are a Sag or what? Are you a Leo? What are you? What's your sign? Alexa, turn on bedroom lamps. I'm curious how you make the zodiac connection. She says Jay-Z is more covert. He is a Sagittarius. They are very strategic and 2 steps ahead. Interesting. I love a Sag. I don't love Jay-Z. I don't know him, but I definitely think that they be up to shit. I definitely think they always planning some shit. But honestly, of all the Sages that I've ever known about, he's the only one that I'm like shocked that he's a Sag, because the Sages I know, they all likable people. They the life of the party, they fun, they like my favorite sign as far as I'm concerned. So for him to allegedly be so shady, that's a new thing for me. I didn't know they was this shady, but I don't know. So let's get back into it.
Of everything these artists created. The Cameron situation illustrates this perfectly. When Cam signed with Rockefeller, he was already an established artist with his own following. His contract was presented as a partnership deal that would give him creative control and financial upside. And in reality, the contract transferred ownership of Cam's masters to a Jay-Z entity while limiting Cam's ability to recoup his investment. When Cam tried to renegotiate or leave the label, he discovered that the terms were ironclad and heavily favored Jay. But perhaps the most sophisticated deception involved the use of cross-collateralization clauses. These provisions allowed Jay to use profits from successful artists to cover losses from unsuccessful ones, while keeping the successful artists unaware of how their money was being used. For example, if Jay-Z's albums were profitable and Beanie Siegel's albums lost money, the profits from Jay's work could be used to cover Beanie's losses, reducing the royalty payments to both artists. This created a system where Jay's success subsidized his label mates' failures, while Jay kept the ownership.
The Sonic Scrubber by Black Wolf.
8,000 vibrations per minute. It feels like a massage.
And control. The contracts also included option clauses that gave Jay the right to extend artist deals unilaterally. This meant that if an artist became successful, Jay could keep them locked into unfavorable terms indefinitely. Jay's success with these tactics influenced how other labels structured their deals, creating an industry-wide shift toward more exploitative contracts. Today, young artists entering the music industry face contract terms that are directly descended from the playbook Jay developed at Rockefeller. The system he created to enrich himself has become the standard that keeps artists poor across the entire industry. By 2008, Jay-Z had accumulated enough wealth and industry control to make the moves that would transform him from a successful rapper into a legitimate billionaire. But these weren't just smart business decisions. They were the culmination of 15 years of systematic exploitation that had given him the capital and connections to play at the highest levels. The foundation of Jay's billion-dollar empire was built on 3 pillars: master ownership, strategic partnerships, and corporate positioning. Each pillar was constructed using wealth and relationships.
Who's your favorite sign, Miss Chakra? I wonder who your favorite sign is, but it probably depends on what your sign is. Young RZA says, or is it RZA? I think it's RZA. He says, Chakra Love, Jay has some good music. However, there are many artists better than him. Okay, well, better is relative, so, but I do agree. She says, Miss Chakra says, Young RZA says, or Riaz says, I rate Nas more. I think Jay-Z has more commercial success than Nas. That's just my personal opinion of the music. But I'm not really a New Yorker rapper type girl. So neither one of them are the greatest in my opinion. I'm going to put Tupac as the greatest. Biggie, probably the second. It's a few others that are definitely, in my opinion, it's lots more that are better than Jay, in my opinion. But he's been able to make the most money musically. Oh, she says she doesn't have a favorite sign. Okay, well, I understand that. All right, let's get back into it.
Extracted from the artists and partners he had finessed along the way. The first major play was the creation of Roc Nation in 2008. On the surface, this looked like Jay starting a new label after leaving Def Jam. In reality, it was the launch of a diversified entertainment conglomerate designed to extract value from every aspect of the music industry. Roc Nation wasn't just a record label. It was a management company, a touring agency, a publishing house, and a sports representation firm all rolled into one. This 360-degree approach allowed Jay to take a percentage of everything his clients did while also controlling their career decisions. The genius of the Roc Nation model was that it appeared to offer artists more control and better terms than traditional labels.
This is how we grew our podcast to over 10,000 listeners without spending hours editing each week. First, look up Riverside.
Artists were told they were joining a family led by someone who understood their struggles and would protect their interests. But the contracts told a different story. Roc Nation deals were structured to give Jay unprecedented control over artists' careers while limiting their ability to build independent wealth. J. Cole, one of Roc Nation's biggest successes, has spoken about how his deal gave him creative freedom but limited his ownership rights. While Cole has become a superstar, the long-term financial benefits of his success flow primarily to Jay and Roc Nation. The second major play was
So Mishakra says music is so subjective that I don't really get into that debate. I agree. She said because I can't type because I'm on my phone. It's all good. No worries. I agree with that. I think music is 1,000% subjective, so it's like what I could listen to some Beyonce song and somebody else could 1,000 other people could listen and 1,000 other people get a different take on that song, depending on where they are in their life, what heartbreak they in the middle of, what, success or triumph they've had, or however, music to me is the great creator of connection. So even though you don't know that person, you don't know the writer, you don't know the singer, you don't know if the singer is the writer or vice versa, like you connect to it on some wavelength or another, or you don't. I'm probably never going to really connect to rock and roll music or things like that. It's just not my zhuzh. But listen, I be in there baking, listening to Adele. I could listen to Adele's whole ass 25 album from start to finish, no skips. And to me, that means it's a masterpiece that you can listen to every single song on the album and you don't have to skip not one because they all bangers. Just saying. There's very few artists out there, I feel like that, at least for me, that could do that or has done that. Others are like, I would say Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, Brandy. There's a few others out there that I would say that are songstress that I could listen to from top to bottom and not have to skip anything. But I do think it's subjective. And I do think also too, it depends on how old you are. I'm over here and I'm old. So the people that I listen to, I'm just going to listen to whatever I feel is hot. And it's likely not something being played on the radio because my ass don't even listen to the radio. So if there is a hot song out there, I probably listened to it 3 years too late. My little nieces or god kids, they probably came over here and turned it on and told me, Coco, no, that is not what's up. That's all good. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think Jay-Z is the greatest to ever do it. I think he's the greatest to ever manipulate it. He's the greatest to ever sit back and take money from other people, allegedly, and then, become an alleged billionaire, allegedly. I wasn't there. I don't know none of these people. But that's what it seems like. It doesn't seem like he's put out so many hits that it's just like, oh my God, it's so undeniable that he's the greatest. No, it's undeniable that Beyonce is one of the greatest because she puts out hit after hit, album after album, music video after music video, tour after tour that substantiates that. You know what I'm saying? Jay does not. He's the orchestrator. He's the one in the background putting her out there so that all the other people can see, and he's making money off the back end. And I ain't mad at that. That's what they do. But this idea that he's like the greatest, it's just like, not really. He made some hits, but I think he is one of the greatest because of the people he held back. Like this video is outlining. You know what I mean? Miss Shocker says Jay-Z has some bangers, though people are forgetting. He does. Like one of my favorite songs by him is that Money Cash, whatever Money Cash, where DMX in there growling, DMX and my dog Spike, Jigga, my nigga, right not like that right there is a banger, but that ain't even Jay. Jay's song or whatever, but DMX's verse is hotter in my opinion. Hard Knocks Life was one of the big, I still love that song to this day. I ain't gonna lie. That's one of the best ones he ever made, in my opinion. That I was like, okay. And you know, the only reason I even know about Jay-Z like that is because in my senior year, we were going to Disney and we rode on a one of those Greyhound buses, and this is way back in the day, but we rode on one of those Greyhound buses, and I don't even know, I think this was my cousin's CD, but I had that what is it? Not the Carter, is it the Carter 2? The Hard Knocks, like volume 2, whatever. I had that CD and I listened to it from beginning to end on my 17-hour trip to Florida. So, you know, on our school trip. So that's how come I kind of was like, oh yeah, I'm thumping with him. I also think, I don't know if Unleash the Dragon was out yet, because I think that was the Drew Hill. I don't think that one was out yet. Was the Thong Song out yet? I listened to that, probably TLC and some others like that. But like I knew of Jay-Z, but that's when it was like solidified to me. Like, okay, he's a decent rapper, but I still wouldn't even put him in my top 10. He has some songs that are in my top 10, but I wouldn't put him in my top 10. Like, I'm like, for what? He did that song New York with Alicia Keys, banger. Still to this day, banger. And there's a few other ones. The one he did with oh God, I can't think of his name. Pimp C and the other guy that I can't think of his name. They from Texas, right? So you know what's going down. You know what I'm saying? If it's for Texas, you can't even pluck some of my people. Is it UGK? I can't remember. Y'all put it in the chat. Let me know. But that Big Pimpin', banger still to this day. But to me, he probably has, in my opinion, a good probably 10 to 12 songs that I would be like, okay, I can listen to these songs. Outside of that, I'm not listening to a whole Jay-Z album. It just ain't that good to me. I can listen to a whole Drake album before I can listen to a whole Jay-Z album. I could listen, honestly, and I don't even like Kanye like that. I could listen to a whole Kanye album before I could listen to a whole Jay-Z album. Jay-Z just knew how to make the money the right way, Lord Jesus. He knew how to make the money the right way, meaning he knew how to get to the money. He knew how to slither and snake people out of the money because he learned how to do it from some of the biggest snakes in the industry. That's just my personal opinion. Like I said, I don't know none of these people. I wasn't there, it's all alleged. But just based on his track record and from what people seem to say about him, he seems slithery. Chakra Love says he is so mainstream now, people don't like him as much. That's possible. I remember when he was hot. That's funny. Jay-Z is definitely top 10 rappers of all time. Sorry, not sorry. Listen, that's what I say. Everybody is up to them what they like. I like what I like, and everybody ain't gonna like what I like, and I'm okay with that. I'm definitely okay with that. But he definitely has bangers. I'm sure he has bangers that Chanel has no knowledge of, because there's a whole bunch of shit that's popping right now that I don't know nothing about. And people be like, how you? I don't know, because I listen to what the hell I listen to. And so, like I said, if someone else is, you know how I found out about new music is if my nieces come over, my husband would be like, yo, you need to listen to this. Like, there's this song called Put Me in Chanel. Like, I love this. My husband hit me up. He was like, yo, you need to review this whole ass song video on your channel. Because he knows I love Chanel, obviously. But that's like a song that's been, I guess, on TikTok. It's a worldwide phenomenon right now that I wouldn't know nothing about, because I be in my own little bubble over here. Chanel's reality, like I said, guys. Shaka says, just like people don't like Beyonce as much because she's mainstream. People don't like Beyonce. See, now I don't be understanding it. Like I understand it, because sometimes people could be like too much. What's the right word? I don't want to say overly in the public, but people have kind of like had enough. But I think there's way more people on earth that love her and want to see her every single day. I think the fact that Beyonce and Jay-Z has basically ignored everything that went on with Diddy is a stain on their career. Now, that being said, it's a whole bunch of people in Hollywood that have completely ignored everything they have with Diddy. In fact, it's odd to me. It's beyond odd that that whole Diddy situation went on for over a year, and Hollywood, the film industry, the TV industry, the sports industry, the music industry, all went on mute. How the fuck you mute the whole fucking entertainment industry? Nobody don't have nothing to say except 50? Help me understand. Now that is what you call power. I don't know where they got the power from to do that, but them motherfuckers, somebody got power like I ain't never seen. I ain't seen nothing before that or since that. Not one thing. And Jay-Z and Beyonce, they don't have to, they don't have to, what's the right word? They don't have to answer for what Diddy did or didn't do. But what if 50 say he did it? Yeah, he did. But no, they don't have to answer for that. They don't have to say anything. And I understand why they wouldn't. It's like, listen, it's very reactive over there. Inside, it's like you probably don't want to step in that radioactive pool. I get that, but you could be on your own platform. You can't be this man's best friend, seemingly, or at least industry best friend, at all his parties and have all this interaction with him business-wise, and then sit and say nothing. Not I support him, not let's just see what plays out. Not I don't think he did none of this shit, like nothing. That makes me believe something else is going on. And if shit don't add up, I always say something else is going on. Oversaturated. Thank you. That's the word that I'm looking for. Just as many people hate Beyonce too. Damn, they hate her though? Damn. She says, I'm more of an R&B girl. Me too. I love R&B. Mr. RZA says, Chanel's reality. True. And then he says, Chanel's reality. I hope both American and UK hip hop culture comes. I guess, are you trying to say they come together? I think that would be interesting. But since it hasn't come together yet, I'm not really sure that it's coming. But, keep your hopes up high. All right, let's get back into it. It's almost over.
Jay's entry into the streaming wars with Tidal. In 2015, Jay purchased the struggling streaming service for $56 million and repositioned it as an artist-owned platform that would give musicians better royalty rates and more control over their work. The marketing campaign featured Jay alongside other superstar artists like Beyonce, Kanye West, and Rihanna, all pledging to support a platform that would treat artists fairly. But the reality of Tidal was very different from the marketing. While Jay and his celebrity partners received equity stakes in the company, smaller artists saw minimal benefits. The platform struggled to gain market share against Spotify and Apple Music, and many of the promised improvements for artists never materialized. More importantly, Tidal became a vehicle for Jay to manipulate streaming numbers and chart positions. Albums by Jay and his Roc Nation artists received preferential treatment on the platform, including inflated play counts that helped them achieve higher chart positions and streaming certifications. In 2021, Jay sold Tidal to Twitter founder Jack Dorsey for $297 million, representing a 400% return on his investment. The artists who had supported the platform and helped legitimize it received nothing from the sale. The third major play was Jay's expansion into sports and entertainment through Roc Nation Sports. This venture allowed Jay to represent some of the biggest names in professional sports while also building relationships with team owners and league executives. But Roc Nation Sports also became another vehicle for exploitation. Young athletes, impressed by Jay's success and celebrity status, signed representation deals that gave Roc Nation significant control over their careers and endorsement opportunities. Kevin Durant, one of Roc Nation Sports' biggest clients, has spoken about how the agency helped him build his brand and secure lucrative deals. But industry insiders note that Roc Nation's commission structure and contract terms are among the most aggressive in sports representation. The pattern was consistent across all of Jay's business ventures. Promise artists and athletes better treatment and more control, then use sophisticated contracts to extract maximum value while limiting their independence. But the most sophisticated play was Jay's cultivation of relationships with corporate America. By positioning himself as a bridge between hip-hop culture and mainstream business, Jay gained access to boardrooms and investment opportunities that were previously closed to rap artists. His partnerships with companies like Samsung, Sprint.
I need help fixing my sink.
Okay, let me find a tutorial for you. Do you have a pipe wrench?
Is this it?
Maybe I should schedule a plumber on Thumbtack.
Good call. You the man.
Okay, so let me explain my hair growth journey to you. So I have been on the struggle bus with my hair,
and Live Nation weren't just endorsement deals. They were strategic alliances that gave him equity stakes and decision-making power in major corporations. The Samsung deal for Magna Carta Holy Grail was particularly revealing. Samsung paid Jay $5 million to give away 1 million copies of his album to Galaxy users. This allowed Jay to go platinum before the album was even released to the general public, while also building a relationship with one of the world's largest technology companies. But the deal also demonstrated how Jay had learned to manipulate industry metrics for his own benefit. By pre-selling albums to corporations, he could achieve chart success and industry recognition without actually selling music to fans. These corporate relationships became the foundation for Jay's entry into venture capital and private equity. His investment firm, Marcy Venture Partners, has stakes in dozens of companies across multiple industries, from cannabis to financial services. The capital for these investments came directly from the wealth Jay had extracted from artists and partners over the previous 2 decades. The exploitation of young rappers in the 1990s and 2000s had generated the resources that allowed Jay to become a legitimate business mogul in the 2000s and 10s.
Chakra Love says Jay-Z is what and where all the rappers want to be. They can argue with their mama. Oh, you right. You absolutely right. It's just how he got there is the problem. You really take Jay-Z and insert him into any business, and he's meaning how he went about gaining his wealth, and he's going to win. He's not going to be any different than any of, I would say, in general. Like, obviously, there are other people who have better ways to get, getting business done and, becoming profitable and things like of that nature. But I think you would be hard pressed to find somebody who isn't slithery that got to the top. Because you really kind of got to be slithery to get to the top. You just really do. You got to be able to cut people off, be cutthroat. This is why I can never be in politics. I remember when I was in college, young Chanel was like, I'm going to go and I want to change the system from the inside out, blah, 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 right? And so I thought the best way to do that was to get into politics. I'm like, I want to change these rules and regulations for young people who are aging out of foster care. This shit ain't right, blah, 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 right? And then I remember talking to my husband because I'm like, I'm going to run for Senate in 2020 whenever I'm old enough to do it and blah, 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 because you can't run until I think you had to be like 38 or 40 or something like that. And at the time I was in my 20s. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to run. And then my husband, I talked to him and he was just kind of like, love, I think you can do whatever you want to do. I support whatever you want to do. But you're not the type of person that's going to want to compromise your integrity so that you can get some shit done. And he's absolutely right. And I thought about it and I was like, damn, because he's right. You can't give in any business really without giving something up. You can't get without giving something up. And it's like, you have to be careful, but you have to be willing to do that. And if you're not willing to do that, probably not going to make it all the way to wherever it is you're trying to go to. It's just a fact. Unless you just have somebody who has a good heart and a whole boatload of money that they want to help you with. Because outside of that, it's going to be some griminess in politics in order to get what you want. So if you say, I want young adults who are aging out of foster care to have the right to, housing for the first 3 years, since they don't have no family or no income and probably have very limited education, you're not going to get that free and you're not going to get that funding without giving up something. And I learned that real quick. I was like, oh shit. So yeah, I probably have to do it a different way. And I did work within the system for many years to help change things. And I absolutely helped change things, especially, some things dealing with legislation, like, people being able to have free Medicaid when they age out of foster care, at least here in Texas, things like that. And extending, aftercare, it's a whole bunch of things that I helped work with. But what I'm saying is, my point is this: in politics and in the game of business, you're usually going to have to give something up significant if you want something significant that you want to get. If you want to receive something significant, you probably got to give up something significant. And I wasn't willing to do that. And I think with Jay-Z, he was willing to do it. Didn't even matter to him. Young Reza says K Coke actually lives what he raps. I have no idea who that is, but shout out to him. Chakra said he got the baddest chick in the game and he a billion. How is anyone going to get there the same way? I agree. Young Reza says K Coke feeling let down by the industry. K Coke publicly expressed frustration, blaming police and the industry for broken promises, though he and Jay reportedly parted ways amicably on the business. They always say they parted ways amicably. Like, they ain't never gonna be like, yeah, this ninja led me down, broke road and I didn't get nothing. I don't have none of my masters and blah, blah, blah. They're never going to say that. And when they do speak about it, a lot of times these people come up missing. I'm just saying. Think about all of the people, and it's not the same, but think about if you go down that rabbit hole, all of the people around Diddy. He has so many artists, and not one of them signed to him twice. But he made millions off of those people. Not one of them. They either under the ground. Even the people that wasn't signed to him. Think about it. All of the people that was at his Uptown Records. Almost all of them are dead. The only two people alive is Al B. Short and Diddy. And Al B. Short almost died. The rest of the people are gone. Dead and gone. Just saying. And I believe if not Cardi, Lord Jesus, if what's the girl's name that he was beating up in the hallway? Cassie. If Cassie hadn't have made her lawsuit so super public, she'd probably be under the ground too. But again, these are my opinions. This is not, listen, I don't know. None of these people, I wasn't there. It's all, in my opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. It's all alleged. But you know what I'm saying? I think you cross the wrong people in this game and you end up, either broke, mentally ill, right? Because they love to say, oh, they mentally ill. You can't listen to them. They ain't got it all. They marble. Because the thing is, when you say some of this that goes on, it sounds so far-fetched that you just kind of like, a person with a real working brain can't possibly believe this is the way this shit went down. They can't possibly believe that these people are this nefarious. They can't possibly believe that some of this shit that's happened is legal. Right? They love to say people crazy. She's crazy. He's crazy. They're crazy. They're crazy. They gotta be crazy. If you think about all, like a lot of the Disney stars and the Nickelodeon stars, child stars. If you think about a lot of the people that speak out against certain things that the people with the power don't want you speaking about, what happens to these people? Not all of them. I ain't saying it's all a conspiracy, but what happens to these people? Many, 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 many times, those people are made to seem like they're crazy. They went off to a rehab somewhere. It's just a fact. And listen, I'm a person who is not a person that believes in these conspiracy theories, but after you start putting things together, honey, you just be like, yeah, okay, so at this point, the puzzle pieces are coming together and it's making a picture, and I can't ignore the damn picture. Just saying. I can't ignore the picture. Once you start putting that puzzle piece together, it's just like, yo, how are all of these people who are your friends, who are your people that was down with you, who are your artists that helped you come up, and none of them, they all, everybody broke? That's why it's like that. To me, that's why I think we will hear these stories, and because we've heard so many, it's like, oh, that's just another, TV star, movie star, musician, whatever it is that fell off. Oh, they all use all their money. They broke now because they use all their money. They on drugs. They mentally ill. That's what we've heard that so much that we believe it when another one, bites the dust, so to speak. Instead of saying, everybody used all their money up. It's like you think to yourself, if you think like about sports, and you'll hear about some major football player that got $30 million sign on guaranteed. 10 years later, they broke. How? Like, come on. I ain't saying people can't spend $30 million in a lifetime. You absolutely can. But in 10 years, what the fuck did you spend it on? And almost all of them are like that. And I have people in my family that went to the NFL with $1 million contracts. Let's keep it a buck. And you wonder to yourself, like, what the fuck? Now, some of it is taxes, obviously. Some of it is, young people with money. They don't know what to do with it. Some of it is everybody want to buy their mama a house and a car, and, now mama ain't got to work no more and all that. I do understand that happens, or bad business deals. But if you sign a contract worth $30 million, that's before you do anything, meaning they gave you that off top. And that don't include your other 10 million, 20 million, or whatever it is that you're going to pay for the next 5 years, and you broke in 10, something ain't right. Same thing with the movie stars, same thing with the musicians. They get these people tied up in these contracts. Like, think about it. TLC, remember them? Crazy Sexy Cool, Red Light Special, Waterfalls, all of that, right? They went on the Grammys and won like 5, 6 Grammys and was like, we broke. I was like, yo, what you mean? They went on the Grammys. They let all of they whatever ego they had, they put it underneath the ground and said, we broke. How we got all of these Grammys? We the largest selling female group of all time, and we broke. How the fuck does that happen? It's like I said, y'all mean to tell me all of these people, after they get all of this money, they suddenly broke? And then they crazy, and then the news headlines will say, oh, they spent all their money, they got evicted, they bankrupt. The fuck? What you mean? No, they have these shiesty ass contracts. They had these people they think that are in their corner that are not. They're little snakes. They just waiting and they just eating at you. You don't even realize it. Like little parasites. You don't even realize it. Because they got these lawyers that you think you could trust and you can't. Go get you a lawyer from outside of that city, town, wherever it is that you are in. A lot of times they be like, well, you got to get a lawyer that's in this state. They have to practice law in this state. Well, I'm going to go find a lawyer that is reputable, that's probably just as slimy and grimy as you mofos. It's going to look and say, yo, this ain't a good contract. But the problem is a lot of these artists or people who want to be actors, whatever it is, this is their big break. I get to be in a room with Jay-Z. I get to be in a room, P. Diddy gonna produce my album. Weinstein put me in his movie, whatever it is, right? This is my first time. Who don't want to feel like they want to just get their foot in the door? So they get their foot in their door with the raggedly label sponsored attorney that's supposed to be on your side. That's like going to HR. Like, let's keep it a buck. Are we really thinking that HR not in on it when they're getting paid by the company? Like, come on. But anyway, you want to be a star, so you put everything on the line. Your parents and everybody's like, yeah, they're gonna get you there. You associated with this person and how they think you're great. So TLC, what they said, to get that to buy their name back, they had to pay that Pebbles lady $1 million per letter. Now, if that ain't some fuck shit, I don't know what is. And that's some shit we didn't know about until we knew about it. And that's just Pebbles. She's not some mogul like Jay-Z. She's not the artist and the executive and the record label and she not all of those things. She not Jay-Z. So who wouldn't listen to this man if these are your dreams? Your dreams are to be a rapper. If your dreams are to be the next Rihanna, whatever, who wouldn't listen to you? And he knows it. Young Grizzly says, Jay-Z's Rock Nation dropped a UK rapper Keiko in 2013 due to the combination of business challenges, Sony Music pulling out first, and Keiko's ongoing struggles with legal issues. Again, like I said, they will make issues out of no issue so that they can say you crazy, you cracked out of your mind, you broke, look at you don't have no good business ties. And guess what? Good business people, good artists, good, if anything is good attached to you, the people around you gonna say stay 10,000 miles away from these people, that they are creating this, oh, they're crazy, oh, they need to go to rehab, oh, they spent all their money. I don't have the broke people around you. Don't bring the broke people around me. Don't bring them broke, washed up people who are crazy around me. Just saying. Think about Amanda Bynes. Yeah. Think about Lindsay Lohan. Think about even Michael Jackson. Think about all of the people. And I ain't saying those people don't have their own stripes or scars on that, because they definitely do. But when some of these industry people position you in a position to where your voices no longer can be heard, and if it's heard, it's not believed, and or nobody cares because they think you're crazy. And on top of that, now you're broke. You're out of the circle. No one cares. You're not going to be headlines for saying that these people are doing me wrong. If you say these people are going to do you wrong, the first thing our society is going to say is you're just ungrateful. You're mad because you misused your money and your power and your record didn't sell and blah, 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 blah. As if these people, these one particular person has any real power to overcome that. You got to have that machine. That's what I always talk about, the machine. You got to have that machine that likes you. That machine has to be making money off you. And once they realize, the artists realize, oh, well, I want to make some money too, the machine ain't having it. Unless you're already a Beyonce or a Rihanna or an Adele or somebody like that could actually fight back and the public would listen to. But in my opinion, Rihanna went over there and said, let me go and start Fenty Beauty. I'm tired of running across this stage and making another album and whatever else. I need to make money while I'm asleep. And she already paid in the shade. Tons of Grammys, tons of accolades and whatever else. But she does not, in my opinion, want to be a part of the machine anymore. So she said, I'm going to go over here and make some makeup and some Savage Beauty and whatever else. And I ain't mad at her. And it's part of the reason I think Beyonce went over there and said, I'm going to make, what is it? Creed or Credence or some sort of hair shampoo or whatever. Sacred, I think is what it's called. Because she probably tired of dancing around the stage too. She probably like, okay, I still want to make money. But I want to come out when I want to come out, like Diana Ross. I'm going to come out when I come out. And if I don't want to, I ain't. Cher is also a vampire. There's a whole bunch of vampires around here. All right, let's finish listening to this malarkey.
Jay-Z's transformation into a billionaire didn't end his exploitation of young artists. It just made him more sophisticated about it. Today's Roc Nation operates as a fully integrated entertainment machine that can extract value from artists at every stage of their careers while maintaining the appearance of being artist-friendly.
Introducing the only prescription hair regrowth gummy on the market, the Minoxidil Plus Biotin Gummy by Hers.
The modern Roc Nation model represents the evolution of everything Jay learned from his early finessing. Instead of the crude exploitation tactics used on artists like Beanie Sigel and Memphis Bleek, today's system uses data analytics, social media manipulation, and complex financial instruments to maximize extraction while minimizing artist awareness. Let's examine how this works with current Roc Nation artists. Megan Thee Stallion's situation illustrates the sophistication of modern music industry exploitation. When Megan signed with Roc Nation for management in 2019, it was presented as a partnership that would help her navigate industry politics and build her brand. But Roc Nation's involvement in Megan's career has been structured to benefit Jay's empire more than Megan herself. While Roc Nation takes a management fee from all of Megan's activities, they also use her success to build relationships with brands, streaming platforms, and media companies that benefit their other clients. More importantly, Roc Nation's management of Megan's career has been designed to create dependency. Instead of helping her build independent business infrastructure, they've positioned themselves as essential intermediaries for every aspect of her career. This creates a situation where Megan's success generates wealth for Roc Nation's ecosystem while limiting her ability to operate independently. If she ever tries to leave Roc Nation, she would lose access to the relationships and infrastructure that have become essential to her career. The streaming era has also created new opportunities for exploitation that Jay has been quick to capitalize on. Roc Nation's relationship with streaming platforms allows them to manipulate playlist placements, recommendation algorithms, and promotional opportunities for their artists. But this power is used strategically to benefit Jay's broader business interests. Artists who are fully committed to the Roc Nation ecosystem receive maximum support, while those who maintain independence or question the system find their opportunities limited. Lil Uzi Vert's brief association with Roc Nation illustrates this dynamic. When Uzi was considering signing with the label, he received significant promotional support and playlist placements. But when he decided to maintain his independence, that support disappeared almost immediately. The social media era has also created new forms of exploitation that Jay has mastered. Roc Nation's social media strategy uses their artists' personal brands to build the company's overall influence while limiting the artists' ability to control their own narratives. Artists are encouraged to post content that promotes Roc Nation's brand and values, often without realizing how this content is being used to build Jay's business empire. Their personal social media accounts become marketing vehicles for the company, generating value that flows upward to Jay while the artists receive minimal compensation. But perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of modern Roc Nation exploitation is the use of data analytics to predict and control artist behavior. The company has invested heavily in technology that tracks streaming patterns, social media engagement, and fan behavior to identify opportunities for revenue extraction. This data is used to make decisions about which artists to support, which songs to promote, and which business opportunities to pursue. But the artists themselves rarely have access to this data, leaving them dependent on Roc Nation's interpretation of their own careers. The venture capital arm of Jay's empire has also created new opportunities for exploitation. Marcy Venture Partners uses Jay's entertainment industry connections to identify investment opportunities, but the returns from these investments flow primarily to Jay and his partners rather than the artists who help create the relationships. For example, when Roc Nation artists promote products or services from Marcy Venture Partners portfolio companies, they're essentially providing free marketing for Jay's investments while receiving minimal compensation. The sports division operates similarly, using athlete relationships to build business opportunities that benefit Jay's broader empire. When Roc Nation sports clients endorse products or appear at events, the long-term business relationships that result from these activities become assets of Jay's empire rather than the athletes themselves. This systematic approach to value extraction has made Jay one of the wealthiest people in entertainment while keeping his artists and clients in positions of dependency. They may achieve fame and moderate wealth, but the long-term financial benefits of their success flow primarily to Jay's empire. The most troubling aspect of this system is how it's been normalized within the industry. Young artists entering the music business today see Roc Nation as a desirable destination because of Jay's success and reputation. They don't realize that the system is designed to extract value from their careers while limiting their independence. JAYZ'S systematic exploitation of artists and partners didn't just make him wealthy, it fundamentally transformed how the music industry operates. The tactics he pioneered at Rockefeller have become industry standard, creating a system that keeps artists poor while making executives rich across the entire entertainment landscape. The most significant impact has been the normalization of 360 deals, which give labels a percentage of everything an artist does. Before Jay-Z, most record deals focused primarily on album sales. Artists could build wealth through touring, merchandise, and endorsements even if their albums didn't sell well. But Jay's success with comprehensive artist exploitation showed other labels how much money they were leaving on the table. Today, virtually every major label deal includes 360 provisions that give the label a percentage of touring, merchandise, endorsements, and even non-music business ventures. This shift has made it nearly impossible for artists to build independent wealth through their music careers. Even successful artists find themselves trapped in systems that extract value from every aspect of their lives while providing minimal returns. The streaming era has amplified these problems exponentially. Jay's early manipulation of streaming numbers and playlist placements showed the industry how digital platforms could be weaponized to control artist success. Today, playlist placement and algorithmic promotion have become more important than actual fan engagement, giving platforms and labels unprecedented control over artists' careers. Young artists today face a system where their success is determined not by their talent or fan base, but by their willingness to participate in exploitation schemes that benefit platform owners and label executives. The venture capital integration that Jay pioneered has also spread throughout the industry. Major labels now operate investment arms that use artist relationships to identify business opportunities. While artists themselves receive minimal benefit from the wealth their connections generate. This has created a system where artists become unpaid business development representatives for their labels' investment portfolios, generating value that flows upward to executives and investors, while the artists remain financially dependent. But perhaps the most damaging impact has been the cultural normalization of exploitation within hip-hop. Jay's success story has been held up as an example of Black excellence and entrepreneurial achievement, obscuring the fact that his wealth was built on the systematic exploitation of other Black artists. Young rappers entering the industry today see Jay as a role model and aspire to build similar empires. But they don't understand that his success came at the expense of dozens of other artists who trusted him and were left with nothing. This has created a culture within hip-hop where exploitation is seen as smart business rather than betrayal. Artists are encouraged to get theirs by any means necessary, leading to an industry where collaboration and community have been replaced by competition and extraction. The impact extends beyond music into other areas of Black culture and business. Jay's model of using cultural authenticity to gain trust, then exploiting that trust for financial gain, has been replicated across multiple industries. From fashion to technology to sports, we now see a pattern of successful Black entrepreneurs who build their wealth by extracting value from their own communities while positioning themselves as champions of Black empowerment. The legal and regulatory environment has also been shaped by Jay's tactics. The complex contract structures and corporate entities he used to obscure his exploitation have become standard practice, making it increasingly difficult for artists to understand or challenge unfavorable deals. Regulatory agencies and industry organizations have failed to address these problems because they benefit the same corporate interests that profit from artist exploitation. The system Jay created has become too profitable for too many powerful people to change. The international impact has been equally significant. As hip-hop has become a global phenomenon, Jay's exploitation model has been exported to music industries around the world. Young artists in Africa, Asia, and Latin America now face the same systematic extraction that Jay pioneered in the United States. This has created a global system where local artists in developing markets are exploited by international labels and platforms using tactics that Jay developed to exploit American artists in the 1990s and 2000s. The technology sector has also adopted Jay's approach to relationship exploitation. Social media platforms, streaming services, and digital marketing companies now use similar tactics to extract value from content creators while providing minimal compensation. The influencer economy operates on principles that Jay pioneered in the music industry. Promise creators fame and success, then use their content and relationships to build platform value while keeping the creators financially dependent. While Jay-Z has built a carefully crafted public image as a successful entrepreneur and cultural icon, the artists and partners he exploited along the way tell a very different story. Their testimonies reveal the human cost of his billion-dollar empire and expose the systematic nature of his exploitation. Dame Dash remains the most vocal critic of Jay's business practices, and his perspective is particularly valuable because he was an insider who witnessed Jay's tactics firsthand. In numerous interviews over the past 2 decades, Dame has detailed how Jay systematically...
Are you researching dental implants?
There's a lot of dental offices that'll talk about doing their teeth in the day process. A lot of times what they mean
undermine their partnership while pretending to be a loyal friend. Jay knew exactly what he was doing from the beginning, Dame said in a 2019 interview. He was planning his exit strategy while I was planning our future. I thought we were building something together, but he was just using me to build his own empire. Dame's account of the secret Def Jam meetings is particularly damning. According to Dame, Jay was negotiating his own deal while telling his partners that he was fighting for Rockefeller's interests. He would come back from these meetings and tell us they were trying to lowball us, but really he was working out his own package. The financial impact on Dame has been devastating. He estimates that Jay's betrayal cost him over $100 million in potential wealth. If we had stayed together and built what we started, I would be worth hundreds of millions today. Instead, I'm fighting lawsuits and trying to rebuild from nothing. But Dame's story is just the tip of the iceberg. Multiple former Rockefeller artists have spoken about how their careers were managed to benefit Jay rather than themselves. Beanie Sigel has been particularly candid about his experience. In a 2020 interview, Beans revealed that he never understood the financial terms of his deal until years after signing. I thought I was signing with my big brother, someone who would look out for me. I didn't realize I was signing my life away. Beans described how his album, The Truth, was profitable for the label but left him with virtually no money. They told me I had to recoup my advance, but they never explained what that meant. Every time I asked about money, they would show me paperwork that I didn't understand. The psychological impact on Beans has been significant. I trusted Jay like family. When I found out how the business really worked, it broke something in me. I felt stupid for trusting him, but also angry that he took advantage of that trust. Memphis Bleek's situation is even more heartbreaking because of his long friendship with Jay. Bleek has been more circumspect in his public comments. But industry insiders say his financial situation reflects the exploitative nature of his deal. Bleek was Jay's day one friend, but his contract was structured like he was just another artist, said a former Rockefeller employee who requested anonymity. Jay owns Bleek's masters, which means every time Bleek's music gets played, Jay gets paid. That's not how you treat a friend. The employee described a culture at Rockefeller where Jay's interests always came first. Artists would come to the office excited about opportunities. But if those opportunities didn't benefit Jay somehow, they would mysteriously disappear. Cameron has been more diplomatic in his public statements, but his departure from Rockefeller tells its own story. Cam was an established artist when he joined the label, but his time there was marked by creative conflicts and financial disputes. Cam thought he was joining a partnership, but he quickly realized he was just another employee, said a former Dipset member. When he tried to assert creative control or negotiate better terms, he was told that Jay had final say on everything. The impact on Cam's career was significant. His Rockefeller albums underperformed compared to his independent work, and he eventually left the label to rebuild his career elsewhere. Freeway's experience illustrates how Jay's exploitation affected even successful artists. Despite critical acclaim and commercial success, Freeway has struggled financially throughout his career. Free's album Philadelphia Freeway was a hit, but he barely saw any money from it, said a former Rockefeller executive. The recoupment terms were so complex that even successful albums didn't generate artist payouts. Meanwhile, Jay was getting rich off the same sales. But perhaps the most telling testimony comes from Kanye West, who has spoken extensively about his time at Rockefeller and his relationship with Jay. While Kanye eventually became successful enough to negotiate better terms, his early experiences revealed the systematic nature of Jay's exploitation. "They didn't want me to rap because they were making too much money off my beats," Kanye said in a 2013 interview. "I had to force my way into a rap career by creating buzz independently. Even then, my deal was structured to keep me dependent on the label." Kanye's description of the Rockefeller culture is particularly revealing. "It was all about Jay. Everything we did was designed to make Jay bigger and richer. We thought we were part of a family, but really we were just employees in Jay's empire." The pattern across all these testimonies is consistent. Artists trusted Jay because of his reputation and cultural status, only to discover that their deals were structured to benefit him far more than themselves. The exploitation was systematic, sophisticated, and devastating to the artists involved. Many of these artists have never fully recovered financially or emotionally from their experiences with Jay. They remain cautionary tales for young artists entering the industry today, but their warnings are often ignored by artists who see Jay's success and assume they can achieve similar results. One of the most frustrating aspects of Jay-Z's systematic exploitation is that virtually everything he did was technically legal. His lawyers crafted contracts and corporate structures that gave him maximum advantage while staying within the bounds of industry practice and commercial law. But legality and legitimacy are not the same thing. Jay's tactics may have been permissible under the law, but they violated fundamental principles of fair dealing, fiduciary responsibility, and ethical business conduct. The legal framework that allowed Jay's exploitation to flourish is rooted in the power imbalance between established industry figures and young artists. When a 19-year-old rapper from Philadelphia meets Jay-Z and is offered a record deal, the negotiation is fundamentally unequal. Jay has access to sophisticated legal counsel, industry knowledge, and financial resources that the young artist lacks. He understands the long-term implications of contract terms that the artist doesn't even know exist. This creates a situation where informed consent is impossible, even if the artist signs the contract voluntarily. Entertainment law professor Jonathan Handel explains the problem. The music industry has developed contract structures that are so complex and one-sided that they essentially constitute legal fraud. Artists sign documents they don't understand, giving up rights they don't know they have to people who know exactly how to exploit those rights. The fiduciary responsibility issue is particularly relevant to Jay's relationship with artists like Memphis Bleek and Beanie Sigel. When Jay positioned himself as a mentor and big brother figure, he created an implicit fiduciary relationship that required him to act in their best interests. Instead, he used their trust to negotiate deals that benefited him at their expense. This represents a clear violation of fiduciary duty, even if it wasn't legally actionable under the specific terms of their contracts. The Dame Dash situation raises even more serious ethical questions. As co-founders of Rockefeller, Jay and Dame had explicit fiduciary duties to each other as business partners. Jay's secret negotiations with Def Jam violated those duties and constituted a clear breach of partnership obligations. Legal expert Sarah Johnson notes, what Jay did to Dame Dash would be considered corporate malfeasance in any other industry. He used his position as a partner to negotiate personal benefits while undermining the partnership itself. The fact that it was legal doesn't make it ethical. The master ownership issue represents another area where...
Just so we know what fiduciary means, let's let Alexa tell us. Alexa, what does fiduciary mean?
As a noun, fiduciary is usually defined as a person to whom property or power is entrusted for the benefit of another. As an adjective, fiduciary is usually defined as of or relating to the relation between a fiduciary and his or her principal. For more, ask me to give you more definitions.
Alexa, stop. So let me Google it and put it up here on the screen so that everybody's understanding. Let's see. Let me share my screen. So fiduciary means, does it show here? Okay. It means involving trust, especially with regard to a relationship between a trustee and a beneficiary. So fiduciary duty is probably really more or less what I'm looking for. Let me make sure you guys can see it. Okay. Let's see. Can I make that bigger? Okay. So it says a fiduciary duty is a legal obligation to act in the best financial interest of another person or entity, the beneficiary, right? So in this case with like Jay-Z, these record labels and things like that, they have a fiduciary duty to act in the best financial interest of another person or entity, meaning the beneficiary, meaning the people who are out here making the money, the writers, the artists, whomever, right? The musician, prioritizing their needs above your own, built on a foundation of trust, care, loyalty, and good faith. Common in relationships like lawyers, clients, trustees, beneficiaries, and corporate directors, stakeholders type responsibilities or type situations, right? Or type relationships. Key responsibilities include acting with prudence, confidentiality, full disclosure of contracts, and avoiding self-dealing with breaches leading to legal liability and damages. But a lot of times these people in these contracts, like I said from the beginning, they just want to be in. And even if they weren't, even if their goal wasn't to quote unquote just get their foot in the door, become a star, meet the biggest, fattest, whatever, even if that wasn't their, whole goal or wasn't their immediate goal, people like Jay-Z, people like the lawyers that have a vested interest in gaining money from these particular people or individuals, they have a fiduciary responsibility that is in place. Otherwise, there's a conflict of interest. You doing shit, pretending as though you're doing it in my best interest. You're presenting me with information that I don't understand, and you're not providing me a person truly who is being paid by me for the most part to make sure that I clearly understand this shit. It's not in their best interest to make sure that the client or the artist or the whomever on the other side of it has a full understanding. Think about it this way. When you go to the hospital and, you talk to a doctor about your symptoms, right? I got a headache, my neck hurts, it's hard for me to sleep, my eyes hurt, whatever it is. They have a fiduciary responsibility to do the right thing, to tell you, to inform you. At the end of the day, you can't ever really say I'm giving consent or full informed consent of anything. Why? You didn't go to medical school. So the only true way for you to fully say you understand and so therefore you can consent is if you've been to medical school. That's the only way. It's like saying, yeah, I know and understand the law. I'm not an attorney. I haven't gone to law school. That's not to say you can't understand any scope of it. But in the grand scheme of things, when you're signing away your life, your livelihood, your likeness, your future earnings, and all these types of things, that means you need to have somebody there that does fully understand the scope of what the fuck is going on. And these people that are seemingly like Jay-Z and other executives that are in this type of business, they don't give a fuck about that. They don't care about your rights, and they know you don't probably likely understand it. And then once you sign your life away, let's say you sign your life away and you're like, well, I want to fight to get my life back. By that time, they already made you seem crazy. A. And then B, either you might be addicted to some sort of substance. C, you might be so burnt out and scared. Like a lot of the people that were artists of Diddy, allegedly, seem to be broke. And so what attorney are you picking? You certainly can't go pick your pick of the litter. Now that you don't even have $5,000 to fight to get your child back. That was, I think, Dawn or one of the girls in the other Diddy group, the Dirty Money group, when she called him and asked him for some money to help her with and he said, I ain't got it. He ain't got it. You the $1 billion man. What the fuck you mean? You ain't got it. What you mean, sir? But that was Diddy. That's not Jay. But I'm just saying, I'm sure he's done the same thing. Similar thing. My opinion. I wasn't there. I don't know none of these people. It's all alleged and for entertainment purposes only. But you get what I'm saying? Like, these people know they have a responsibility to tell you the right thing. No, you probably don't fucking understand what you're signing. But like Beanie Siegel said, I'm thinking this is my brother. Why would my brother do that to me? Why would he set me up for the okie doke? To me, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your mama, your auntie, your husband, your wife, your child, the people like if they think and have the same ideology with Jay-Z, like Jay-Z does, then they don't give a shit about you. They don't have people that operate like how it seems Jay-Z has allegedly operated in these situations. Those type of people to me are just evil. They're what they call sociopaths, narcissists. They can't, nor do they care about your downfall and how things impact you. They don't care. They care solely about themselves. Think about how a narcissist operates. They will gaslight the shit out of your ass. I'm here for you. I'm just trying to make a deal. Meanwhile, you broke as fuck, and they done made $100 million off of you, and then mad at you and trying to gaslight you because you like, yo, you took all my money. Well, you signed the contract. I'm the one that put the people in front of you so you could even have a deal. That's what my imagination says happened in a lot of these meetings. And Jay-Z probably wasn't even there. Meaning he sent his person to explain away how he fucked you. Just my opinion. Anyway, let's carry on. Right.
The artist he was signing focused on immediate advances and promotional support. This represents a form of informed consent violation that is common in the entertainment industry, but would be considered unethical in other professional contexts. Doctors, lawyers, and financial advisors have ethical obligations to ensure their clients understand the implications of their decisions. The music industry has no such standards. The regulatory environment has also failed to address these problems adequately. While other industries have developed consumer protection standards and professional ethics codes, the music industry operates with minimal oversight and virtually no accountability for exploitative practices. The Federal Trade Commission and state attorney generals have occasionally investigated music industry practices, but their focus has been on obvious fraud rather than the systematic exploitation that Jay pioneered. The complex corporate structures and legal sophistication of modern exploitation make it difficult for regulators to identify and address. Industry organizations like the Recording Industry Association of America, RIAA, and the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences, NARAS, have also failed to develop meaningful ethical standards for industry executives. These organizations are controlled by the same people who profit from artist exploitation, creating a conflict of interest that prevents meaningful reform. The international implications are also significant. As Jay's tactics have been adopted by labels and executives worldwide, the exploitation model has spread to music industries in developing countries where legal protections for artists are even weaker. Young artists in Africa, Asia, and Latin America now face exploitation schemes that are directly descended from Jay's playbook, but with even less legal recourse or industry support. The technology sector has also adopted similar tactics, using complex terms of service and algorithmic manipulation to extract value from content creators while providing minimal compensation. The legal frameworks that allow Jay's exploitation have become templates for platform capitalism across multiple industries. But perhaps the most troubling aspect of the legal situation is how it has normalized exploitation within the industry. Because Jay's tactics were legal, they have been adopted as standard practice by other labels and executives. Young artists entering the industry today face systematic exploitation that is considered normal business practice. The legal system's failure to address Jay's tactics has created an environment where exploitation is not just permissible but expected. The long-term impact on artistic creativity and cultural development is significant. When artists know that their work will be exploited by industry executives, they have less incentive to take creative risks or invest in long-term artistic development.
That's why I like that one guy. Oh, I can't remember his name, but he won a Grammy. It was something. What was his name? Something the artist. I can't remember his name is. But he won a Grammy. He may have won a few Grammys that one year. He was like, I'm doing this solo. He did everything solo. He was not signed to any label. He made all his music. He put it out there. I feel like he either put it on YouTube. He somehow promoted it through the internet or social media, and he never had to pay 1 red cent to any record label. Chance the Rapper, I think is his name. And lots of people wanted him. Lots of record labels wanted him to sign. He ain't signed none of them and still won a Grammy or 2 or 3. I don't know how many he won. But he, to me, was the prototype for we could do this shit. And I ain't got to be signed to no fucking body label. I think it's a risk you take. I think you got to be truly, probably very talented and understand and have a team behind you, but understand how this machine works and how to circumvent it. He was able to do it. It was a few other artists, I think, that have done that since then. I don't know that they actually have Grammys or anything like that, but I know I've heard, excuse me, of a few other artists that have done it that way. And they like, nope, you're not looping me in and signing me in to anything. I know I watched a video of somebody recently. I wish I could think of the name of this particular artist. Because they did the same thing. They had all kinds of people calling them, all kinds of record labels trying to get at them, and they like, nope. And then the record labels was pissed at them because they were like, this is an artist we know. And I feel like the guy that was the manager ended up dead somewhere. I can't remember the name of the artist, but yeah, they was really just trying to get at this man and trying to get at this man and trying to get at this man. And he was like, nah, I ain't taking none of y'all phone calls. Like none of them. Everybody was trying to get at him, including Rock Nation. And he was like, nope, I ain't doing it. And I think the new age artists have learned the lesson. They like, look, we got social media. When Jay-Z was doing all this exploitative bullshit he was doing, social media was in its infancy. Now, you could be Justin Bieber, God rest his soul. I know he ain't gone yet, but internally, I feel like that man has been gone. But it's like you could be a Justin Bieber, except they got their claws into him, right? But I'm saying you could be this young person with this sound to be on the internet and become literally a millionaire and not have to even be signed to anybody. You could figure out how to do it on your own by, ads on your YouTube channels, on your social media and whatever else. You can figure out how to do it and not to have none of these mofos involved. And that's the downfall to me of the industry. It's coming. Stone Bella said it's coming sooner than later for Jay-Z. So listen, we're gonna watch her little hold on. Did I pull it up over here? Yeah, I pulled it up. Okay, so I just always love to show Sloan Bella at the end because she said, Jay, you got next. Child, she sure did. She said, Jay, you got next, honey. Oh, I did. I thought I stopped sharing the screen. Okay. So let me share my screen. She's talking about Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Of their creative talents. Now, Jay-Z, this is going to come to a screeching halt. Screeching halt. Russell Simmons pops up in the conversation. Okay, in the conversation. So I have not heard head nor tail of Russell Simmons. He pops right in right now for months. I mean, he went off somewhere and who the hell knows where he went. Those words, that hiding will come to play in the future months. We're going to see conversation from Russell Simmons. It's either behind the scenes, something that is going to bring about a change in how the public looks at Jay-Z. There's like all kinds of things going on. He has a target directed at him because people want him found out. Beyonce does as well. This is what they're doing. Changing the candle wax, upping the game, upping the ante. The energy is very, very odd, but this is what I feel. So it's 3 years, and then in the year 2036, it no longer exists. He is a expression of his former self, and that former self is contained in such a way that we don't recognize it, and it doesn't have the power that it wields right now. So we are in a long line of circumstances happening right now with a takedown, and it's just waiting for them to be taken down, and they've been promised otherwise. They have been promised otherwise. They, Jay-Z, Beyonce, all of the other ones I mentioned, but this is about Jay-Z, they are in the process. Now, what I am seeing is Jay-Z's beginning, okay? So the succession of being unraveled in the next 3 years starts with a burglary of something. So Jay-Z is in the process of having some connection to missing burglarized items, and it's going to come up around him. That's the first marker. And I'm not sure what it is he steals. I don't know if this is a stolen song, a stolen item, a stolen car. I don't know what it is, but it is a burglary of something I have stolen, and now I'm being accused of taking this. And that is the beginning of it, because they will start nosing around with him. So there's like a lot of nosing around. It's in the theft of something. And by theft, I don't quite know what I mean by that, but it's by the theft of something. And when you look at that, it just draws attention to him, and they don't like attention drawn to them. I also feel, forgive me.
Child, it's going down, and it seems like Jay-Z and Beyonce going down with him. So y'all better get y'all ducks in a row. Jay-Z and Beyonce. It seems like people want y'all out, and they are not going to stop until it happens, honey. That's what it appears to be. But anyways, thanks guys for tuning in to another episode of Chanel's Reality. I'm Chanel, and this is my reality. Y'all hit that like button, subscribe button, share button, hit all my buttons and notification button so you'll know when I go live. Talk to you guys later. Have a Merry Christmas. Have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I know I can't sing. Leave me alone.